This is the Horror Movie Show on hmpod.com, your one-stop shop for all things horrific and horror-related. Read the reviews, frolic in the forum, hem and haw over the horoscopes, and listen mightily to the Horror Movie Show with Mark and Jerry, your horrible hosts.
Howdy do, folks. Jerry here.
And Mark.
Bringing you, yes, it is. It's another episode of the Horror Movie Show.
On hmpod.com.
That's easy for you to say. hmpod.com. Check us out on Facebook. Do a search on the Horror Movie Show and you'll find our page. Hopefully by now we've got our iTunes problem sorted out.
We have a problem?
Yeah, Kent. Our shows are not automatically feeding onto iTunes. And Amazing Trixie, our technical genius, hasn't been able to figure it out yet.
Between her gardening and her
building
and
drinking.
Constant
drinking. Plus we got a new dog. You know, we got this 6-month-old puppy, and she's spending most of her waking hours with the dog.
Have the puppy do it then.
I be as useful as Trixie's being right now, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But come on, Trixie.
Hey, leave the woman alone.
So, this is our Rob Zombie retrospective episode. It's a retro special.
Woo!
Yeah.
Anything with the word zombie in it.
Now, what we're doing is we are looking at his feature films that he has directed.
We're not looking at his music.
Nope. We're not looking records, not the music videos.
Even though he sold 12 million albums so far.
No, I have absolutely no love of his music.
I can't say I've ever heard any of his music.
Oh, you know, it's a lot of that.
It's the satanic stuff.
Yeah. That's what I've heard anyway. Maybe he's not so one note, but I just find it so boring and wearing, and you know, for little emos and goths in their mum's basement, you know, this is like the height of devil may care Satan worship, but I just think it's crap.
He changed
That's my opinion.
His original name was Robert Bartley Cummings.
Bartley?
Bartley. Yeah, Bartley.
Okay. Cummings.
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
Robert Bartley Cummings. There you go.
Oh, that's a name my mum would be proud of.
Yeah.
Rob Zombie. Why do you change your name to Rob Zombie?
Yeah,
Don't you love your mother?
He should have a copyright behind his name. Yeah. Rob Zombie copyright.
Yeah. Well, I think the Haitians probably used zombie first, so
yeah.
Perhaps he's half Haitian. That's his mother's side, the zombie side.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to run down the list of movies. We've got House of a Thousand Corpses from 2003. The sequel, Devil's Rejects, in 2005, at which point he was asked and produced a mock trailer for the Grindhouse features. That was Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's double bill. Mm-hmm. And he produced a trailer for a non-existent movie called Werewolf Women of the SS. that sounds like fun. That's how Machete got
well, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
That was a fake trailer.
And they're coming out with another one.
With a sequel, Machete 2.
So they're doing well.
So following the little Werewolf Women of the SS in the same year, 2007, was Rob Zombie's remake. And it is very much a remake of Halloween, based on John Carpenter's 1978 original. Halloween 2 in 2009. Both of those written and directed by Rob. In 2009, he also released The Haunted World of Superbeasto, which we will get to. Then he directed an episode of CSI Miami.
I missed that one.
Yeah, me too. I bet it was a real hoot, though, watching that red-headed, intense guy all done up in goth makeup. And then his latest movie, which came out last year, 2012, was Lords of Salem. Okay. Now, the one thing you gotta know about Rob Zombie movies is that he puts his girlfriend, and that's now his wife, Sheri Moon, into every one of his movies.
That's right.
He loves Sheri Moon, and she's very cute. In the first two movies, House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, she is one of this hideous family of monsters that all live together. Her character is called Baby. And they are essentially, this is just a take on Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah.
It's a family of hillbilly outback nut jobs who enjoy murder and torture.
Yeah. The story is really based on the kids that kind of come into this family.
Find them.
They find this family.
Yeah. Dwight Schrute from the American version of The Office is one of the kids that comes in. And another one of the kids, Chris Hardwick, who's the super nerd, the self-proclaimed super nerd, who runs the Nerdist podcast, and he also is the host of The Talking Dead.
Oh, okay.
The talk show that comes on after Walking Dead on AMC.
Right.
So Chris Hardwick, that's one of the few straight acting jobs he's been in, although there's not much straight about these Rob Zombie movies. He does play the horror for laughs.
Well, yes and no. I liked House of 1,000 Corpses because it was really quirky. It had a really black humor to it.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I did not find that humor in Devil's Reject. The humor wasn't there, which I did not enjoy that movie as much as I did the first one.
Plus Karen Black plays the mom in the first one.
Yeah, she really hams it up.
Oh, she's great. I always loved Karen Black.
Same with the Halloween movies. I'm getting ahead of us, but I liked the first one more than I liked the second one.
Right.
The first one was introducing some really cool, interesting things about Mike Myers' background.
Right.
The second movie didn't add to it at all.
No, they didn't. The first Halloween movie, they really concentrate, like the whole first quarter, even the first third of the movie, on 10-year-old Michael.
Yeah.
And the relationship between him and his head shrink, who's played by Malcolm McDowell in both Halloween.
But House of 1,000 Corpse, I really liked it because it was well shot. It looked good.
Right? Did you think so?
Yeah, I thought it looked good. It was quirky. It had that black humor in it, really, and it had some good characters in it. The characters, you got to know them a little bit, and they did silly things, and the fact that several of the characters didn't believe what was going on. They thought it was a joke.
Yes, that's right.
And I thought that whole angle of it was very, very funny.
It begins with this group of kids who are on a trip, and they want to stop into
Americana kind of thing.
They're looking for off the wall sorts of places, so they find this freaky little shop run by a character named Captain Spaulding, and a lot of the characters in this movie
are named
after Groucho Marx characters from the great Marx Brothers movies. So Sid Haig, hideous, lumpy-faced fellow, he plays Captain Spaulding, and he's always in clown. He's almost always in clown makeup, so he always looks peculiar. And he's running his Captain Spaulding's sideshow. Little house is full of all kinds of freaky things.
Yeah, it's like a gas station house of curiosities.
Yeah, that's right, like a little horror house. Little museum of curios.
Don't they have the little cave of horror or something like that?
There's a little tram that runs through, and
they go on that little hokey thing. See, all that stuff was really funny and entertaining. None of that in the second one.
No, the second one is I agree, very, very grim in comparison, because by the end of the first movie, the family has been torn apart. A lot of them are dead. They're on the run.
They're on the run. That's it.
And really, in the second one, only 3 of the family have survived, and that's Captain Spaulding, Baby. That's the Sheri Moon character, and also Bill Moseley's character Otis. So you're never quite sure, but you get the idea that these are like brothers and sisters. And Karen Black plays their mother. She plays Mother Firefly, Rufus T. Firefly being another Groucho Marx character.
Yep.
And Otis, I don't know if Otis Cribblecobbless was a W.C. Fields character. So Rob Zombie's really putting it out there that he's a big fan of the old comedy.
Yeah.
The first one, setting everything up, is very much a tip of the hat to the old horror movies. It's just obvious that Zombie is such a fan of these movies. Now, House of 1,000 Corpses is a remake of the same titled older movie, which I may have seen, but I don't remember it very well, but it's along similar lines, 1960s, I think, maybe early 70s, and it's just basically kids getting into trouble with a family of freaks.
Right.
You know, I mean, my God, there've been so many movies like that. The Crazies. What's the one where they're out in the testing grounds in the middle of nowhere with Jupiter and Pluto and all those characters? They're misdirected at the gas station. And
It's the typical kind of
yeah.
It's the misdirection.
Dad gets burned to death in front of the whole family. And
Oh, that's right. I can't remember the name of that was.
No, they all blend into one horrific movie in my mind.
Yeah. You're going to see the same thing over and over again if you watch enough of these type of movies.
Yeah.
This one was done with style.
Yes, yeah.
And that's what I liked about it. The house looked weird.
Yeah.
The underneath the house looked kind of cool. I mean, the way he shot it was that he shot it at different times.
Right.
Rob Zombie.
Yeah, it took years to get this made.
Yeah, even though he spent $7 million on it, it took him a long time to raise that.
Well, I think he's doing like his own music. And he was doing videos for
and they were
people.
shooting it at places, friends' houses and his basement at one point. So he was doing it on real cheap, but it still cost $7 million to make. I don't know how he gained.
Well, he just over time, you know.
It probably took him about 3-4 years to make the thing.
But it is a big reason why it looks as good as it does.
Yeah, he took his time.
For first directing job, it looks better than most first directing jobs.
Yeah. And a lot of, smoke and mirror kind of stuff happening there. And at the end, it's like you think they get away, and of course he's gonna throw a monkey wrench into that. And that's how the first one ends. The second one begins with them on the lam, and it's like the police are after them.
And the head cop after them is the brother of the cop who they murdered
in the first one.
The first movie. They're both big fat American
South
down cops.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is they don't have the same last name. So I'm not quite sure why they're supposed to be brothers.
Maybe they were cousins or something.
Well, in the second movie it's Sheriff Wydell. In the first movie it's Sheriff Houston. So I don't know. They're supposed to be brothers. Why they've got separate last names, different last names.
Different fathers.
Yeah, I suppose. So in the second movie, yeah, that's possible. In the second movie, you got Sid Haig, Bill Moseley as Otis. He takes a much larger role in the second movie than he does in the first one. Sheri Moon zombie back as baby. Now she's real pretty, real good-looking blonde babe. But, that baby voice she puts on, that Betty Boop thing that she does in the first two movies gets really wearing, I found.
Yes.
Her cutesy pie thing. And I know it's supposed to be particularly horrific that anyone with such a cutesy little girl voice would, be skinning people alive.
Yeah.
Eating their pancreas, whatever. But
she was a horrible person in the second one. She was more so.
Yeah.
She's just sadistic.
Yeah, they're all just sadistic.
They just want to. They want to make people do things for them, and then they're going to kill them anyway.
Yeah, they're going to kill them anyway.
It was really tiresome because it was over and over again. Yeah. Each person of the family finding someone to torture and then killing them at the end.
Sticking with them
sometimes it wasn't a clean kill because they got injured too.
Right.
But it was just the same thing over and over again. At that point, I was going, just kill them all. I don't want to watch this anymore. This is really not fun.
No,
it wasn't fun at all.
No, I'd seen both movies before, and I watched them both again recently, so we could talk about them. And I have to say, I did not enjoy The Devil's Rejects much at all. House of a Thousand Corpses, having already seen it once, I wasn't that enamored of it. But I do think it is a more entertaining movie than Devil's Rejects. A couple of name actors who show up in Devil's Rejects to go along with the Chris Hardwick from the first movie. In Devil's Rejects, you've got Danny Trejo. We just talked about him as being Machete.
Yeah.
He's just one of those actors who
shows up everywhere.
Yeah, most people won't know his name.
But they know him.
They know him like the back of their hand. And the other one is personal favorite of mine, guy I've managed to meet a couple of times, Brian Posehn. Mm-hmm. And he's like a real he's a comedian and a very funny stand-up and actor, but he is also a real metalhead.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. He's like a huge.
That's probably
metal.
where he met Rob Zombie.
And that's why it would be like a little. Yeah, geez, I'd love to be in your movie, Rob. Thanks. Yeah, I could. How's $100 sound? That's all I can afford to pay you.
So that's the thing with Rob Zombie is he can go overboard.
Yeah.
I don't think Rob should ever do a sequel.
Well,
he seems like all of his.
And yet he's done 2 sequels out of 6 movies. He's done 2 sequels.
Yeah, and both of them to me were really inferior to the originals.
Yeah, and I so far I really haven't seen like an absolutely original movie from him. Not those first 4 anyway. House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects.
Well, Halloween
and Halloween 2.
Now, Halloween, it seems to me that he did a different take on it, didn't he?
No,
from the original.
Very similar to John Carpenter's. Maybe a little more focus in John Carpenter's on Jamie Lee Curtis's victim character, showing how strong she is.
Yeah.
But, it's just basically the same. Instead of Malcolm McDowell as the shrink coming at, trying to save the town from Michael, in the original it was Donald Pleasance.
Oh.
But Dr. Loomis, all the same characters, all of the same plot line.
Malcolm McDowell, I thought his part in the first movie was very interesting, the way his relationship with young Mike Myers and how it progressed.
They went into much more detail with how Dr. Loomis did or didn't get along with the young and then the aging and gigantic.
But in the second
Mike
movie,
Myers.
that character was off on a tangent.
Yeah.
He was off on his own little whirlwind tour of his book signing.
He's got a hideous book that he's plugging.
His second book, because the first one did very well, and he hasn't done well since then.
Right.
So he's trying to get back to the heyday.
Yeah.
And so when
Mike
Myers...
He's kind of a sleazeball.
Mike Myers resurfaces, he wants to jump right in there again. And he is a sleazeball.
Yeah.
He wasn't so sleazy in the first movie.
No.
In the second movie, he's just out for himself.
Yeah, he is.
And whereas I felt that he was really concerned with Mike Myers in the first movie.
Yeah. You don't get that in the second.
Not in the second movie at all. And so I couldn't relate to the characters anymore. It was just another rehashing of sick things that were less... There was nothing new there.
No,
nothing new.
And also, Zombie tries to, in the second one, he tries to layer in people you think are victims. They start acting sick and nasty as well. Like Mike Myers' sister, the baby sister that he's supposedly coming back for. Mm-hmm. She's not a nice person. Right?
No. To me, halfway through the Halloween 2, I just went, I don't want to see any more of this. It's just garbage. And so again, so serious. The first movie had a little more humor, not a lot in Halloween.
No,
not a lot. But at the same time, it was interesting.
Yeah,
a lot more interest in that first movie. In the second movie, no interest whatsoever.
No.
Didn't care about the characters. Didn't care what they were going to do.
Yeah.
There was nothing that inspired me to say, well, this is different.
Right.
There's nothing.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So, Rob, cut it out. The first movie made a nice chunk of money. I mean, it's like made...
Oh, no doubt.
It was made for $15 million. I think it grossed more than 80.
Yeah.
So it's his biggest movie to date.
Right.
The second Halloween movie is his second biggest to date, but it probably made that money off the first movie.
That's why there hasn't been a third one, I think.
I think they asked him, and he just said he wasn't interested.
Oh, good. So let's see. Actors we got. So Malcolm McDowell, he's like Brad Dourif, who is also in this. Those two guys will pretty much say yes to anything. And here's another sheriff here.
Yeah.
This one's name is Sheriff Lee Brackett, played by Brad Dourif. Dee Wallace plays a mom in it who gets killed really horribly. Standard horror movie actors who Zombie wants to work with and he's very loyal to. In Halloween, you've got Danny Trejo, you got Bill Moseley, Leslie Easterbrook, who took over Karen Black's mother's role in Devil's Rejects. Tom Towles is a standard face in horror movies. Brad Dourif, as I mentioned. Dee Wallace these days is doing a lot of horror work. And Sheri Moon Zombie, who plays the mum. Now, her part was really expanded in the second movie. Like, doesn't she keep appearing as sort of ghost mom to Michael Myers? Because he's like seeing things. He sees both his mom and his younger self with a mask on all the time. Yeah. So, yeah, the Zombie's trying to get us inside Michael Myers' mind. And the original movies, he was just like this unstoppable force.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any depth to his character because we didn't know what was going on in his head beyond his little sister, trying to find his little sister. That's the only thing that saves people in the original Halloween movies. But the original Halloween movies, they made one, they made two, and then the third one they made went completely away. There's no Michael Myers. It's a Halloween movie set on Halloween, but it's entirely different. It's about witchcraft, but it has no Mike Myers. And then for the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh one, they went back to Mike Myers, and they just became worse and worse teen slasher movies, which is just not a genre I have any time for.
Yet we end up watching a bunch of them.
Well, we do, and it's because of those movies that I enjoyed Cabin in the Woods so much, because the whole humor and point of that movie is to deconstruct movies like Halloween and Friday
that's what the Scream movies were about as well. They were deconstructing the slasher movie.
Yeah, but I didn't think the Scream movies were as good as Cabin in the Woods. I thought Cabin in the Woods was much, much funnier.
Well, it was made for laughs, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like black comedy. Well, let's see. We talk next about The Haunted World of Superbeasto. 2009.
I laugh because...
Yeah. Directed by Zombie, had, God help us, 8 different writers, can all share blame.
Which is very strange.
This movie.
Strange because it's based on his comic.
Yeah.
So what's with all the writers?
Throwing in gags.
Yeah.
Just throwing in gags.
Yeah.
Because it was dull, it was thin.
Yeah.
Comic is a good storyboard for a movie, but if you try to take a 60-page comic and make a full-length movie out of it, it's going to be really thin. You have to add and add and add. And that's obviously where the 7 other writers
and it was just gag after gag after gag. There was no substance to this movie.
No. So the idea is that Superbeasto is a sort of a Mexican wrestler. That's his character name. He's always dressed in a jumper with a silly, colorful mask on. Some of the people in it, Tom Papa plays El Superbeasto, and of course, because it's an animated feature, these are just their voices. Joe Alasky, Ken Forey, who has been in all of Rob's movies, I think, except for House of a Thousand Corpses. Dee Wallace is back. Lorraine Newman from the original Saturday Night Live. Very good Canadian comedian. Harlan Williams is in it. Deborah Wilson, a black comedian from the original Mad TV. Clint Howard, Ron Howard's bulbous,
Clint Howard's in it.
Bulbous-headed younger brother.
Yeah.
I always like him. Sheri Moon Zombie, of course. Brian Posehn again. Tom Kenny, who was on Mr. Show with Brian Posehn and others.
Right.
Also, he is SpongeBob SquarePants. The biggest straight actors, Paul Giamatti and Rosario Dawson. They're both in it. Danny Trejo again, Bill Moseley, Tura Satana, who goes right back to Russ Meyer's exploitation movies. Sid Haig again, and the always humorously named Roger Bumpass. and I know he's a comedian because I know his name from the latter day comedy albums put out by the National Lampoon, back when the National Lampoon was quickly sliding downhill. The magazine was no longer good, but they kept the name alive with a few more record albums. And of course, they're still putting out bad comedy movies with the National Lampoon name. But I tell you, kids, nothing with the Lampoon name on it beyond the 70s is worth watching. And I include All But Christmas Vacation in that list.
There you go.
Yeah. So, well, tell what have you got to say? Because I had to stop watching Superbeasto. It got so painful. It looks like a Ren and Stimpy.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
As clever as Ren and Stimpy.
I never liked Ren and Stimpy either.
Oh, I got a laugh out of that. But this isn't as funny.
Yeah, it's that same humor, though.
Yeah, crude.
It's very crude.
Childish.
And it seems to be, it's like it's dealing with sadomasochism. It's just everything that you would consider crude is in this movie.
Yeah.
And
whether it's puncturing eyeballs or poop or...
Yeah.
Very
it's like
adolescent.
they have stupid names like Susie X. Susie X is, like this masochist. Wants to go, torture everybody. There's Dr. Satan.
Right.
I mean, it's like silly things, and they live in Monsterland.
There was a Dr. Satan in Jesus Christ versus Zombies, whatever that was.
I can't read.
We saw recently.
Yeah, that was the name. I don't remember much about it except for the kung fu.
Right. We've seen a lot of bad movies, Mark.
But overall, I mean, it's like I watched this probably about 2 months ago because we were going to review Rob Zombie. We knew we were going to do this.
Eventually.
And for the life of me, I mean, the storyline just eludes me. It was so...
It's forgettable.
It is forgettable.
Yeah.
All I remember is a bunch of really rude little gags. All the way through it,
and
to the point where...
Not funny.
It was
They
just...
got all these great comedians doing voices, but unfortunately, there's nothing funny for them to do.
No. I mean, and it was just childish.
Yeah.
It was like potty humor.
Yeah.
And potty humor is not funny.
No. And I'll tell you, a lot of times, childish comedy can be very funny if you're watching it with a buddy and you're maybe a little...
Well, we were watching The Naked Gun the other day, and that's sort of childish.
Oh, I wouldn't compare the two of them.
No, I'm not comparing the two of them.
Okay.
I'm saying that kind of comedy is very funny.
Yeah.
It can be very, very clever, and the timing and facial expressions are all what counts there.
Okay.
But this stuff, it was just like, look at me, I'm funny.
Okay, well, I think that's a completely inappropriate comparison with this movie. You might as well dredge up the Marx Brothers. No, I mean more appropriately is Ren and Stimpy, because that's what this is like, the grossness of characters picking their noses and eating it, and
or putting it on someone else.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of low crap that this movie is filled with, and it's a shame because of all the art forms, animation has the potential to show us anything and everything. And this movie, it is so far from taking the high road. It's like off the road and drowning in the river, and I just wish it never lived.
Yeah, I can't say anything good about it.
No.
Other than it was colorful.
Yeah. I'd rather look at a rainbow.
Yeah. But I mean, it was like, it was just so... It was like, look at this. Look at me being gross. Look at me being gross.
Yeah.
And here I can be gross here. And isn't this silly?
I was going to make the point that quite often a bad movie can be fun if you got a buddy or two over and you're having a few beers, maybe smoking something colorful, and just get into it as a terrible, stupid thing you can enjoy. But this is just painful. I can tell you, substances of any kind don't enhance this movie. Yeah. It just makes it go slower.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you keep thinking to yourself, I could have made a better joke there.
Oh, it's just there. It's just awful. After Superbeasto, he directed an episode of CSI Miami, which I think goes to show his range.
Yeah.
And
if someone offered you money to do something, wouldn't you?
Well, I don't doubt that he didn't make much money off Superbeasto. Anyway, so he did that. Yeah, Frank Zappa acted in an episode of Miami Vice, which is
I did
funny.
not know that.
Yeah, he did. He plays a villain. He doesn't have a big part, but he's very smooth. And there's Frank with a little chin beard and all.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, dude, Miami Vice Zappa. You'll find it immediately.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he doesn't sing, unfortunately. Okay, so Zombie's last movie, most recent movie too, is Lords of Salem from last year. Well,
now this one I didn't mind.
No, this is like the most original movie that he has made. So far as I know, the only one that isn't just a remake. It stars Sheri Moon Zombie, and she's very much the star of this one. She plays Heidi Hawthorne. Bruce Davison, who's a very good actor, Oscar-nominated actor. First time I was aware of him, he was playing Willard in the original
Was he?
Rat movie. I saw that when I was just a young kid, maybe 7.
Willard made a
old.
big dent on it. That was a very popular movie.
It's a very weird movie. All those rat wranglers.
Yeah.
They must have had.
I mean, nowadays, if you look at it, it seems pretty
it's hokey.
hokey.
Yeah.
It's much like the birds, Alfred Hitchcock's
that's
Bird.
right.
You throw a few dead birds in the air and shoot
right.
the... But, at the time, I remember it made a real...
Yeah, well, they remade it with Crispin Glover a few years ago, and they played it for laughs. It's a straight comedy, whereas the original Willard was, I think, took itself pretty seriously. And then the sequel, of course, is absolutely terrifying because Michael Jackson sings.
Ben, yeah.
Okay, who else we got? A couple of older actresses. The English actress Judy Geeson, and the American actress with the ultra pale blue eyes, Meg Foster. They play a couple of... and Dee Wallace, I think, is the third. They play sort of weird witch sisters.
Yeah.
They put the Salem in the Lords of Salem. And they live in the same apartment building that our heroine Heidi lives in. And they get her involved. She doesn't know why. She's a shock jock. Works with another one of Rob Zombie's regular actors, Ken Foree, at a radio station.
The Big H radio team.
Yeah, that's right. And these two guys and this woman, and they get a package with a record in it. And Heidi listens to this weird
music.
Sort of atonal chanting, repetitive, almost backward sounding stuff. And of course, it's introducing her to devil worship, and she doesn't even know it. But before the movie is a quarter over, she's already like walking zombie, dare I say zombie, like
she seems to have been
into other empty rooms in the apartment building and seeing all kinds of weird shit.
She seems to be the chosen one because her apartment building, there are people there that are watching and sort of guiding her without her knowing it.
And the three witches are pretty upfront. Come on down to our place. We'll have a couple of bottles of wine, and we'll.
They seemed like a bunch of lesbians,
Well, I think they're supposed to be three weird old sisters, which is very much a tip of the hat to Macbeth.
Right.
And the three weird sisters.
Of course.
Witches in Macbeth.
Yeah.
That's about as close as Rob Zombie's ever going to get to Shakespeare. But
you never know.
No.
He just might go for it.
Yes, he could certainly bloody up Macbeth as if nobody's ever done that.
I thought this was an interesting movie because it flowed quite nicely. It introduced these characters, and you
Sheri Moon Zombie does not talk in a baby voice either, which was a real nice change.
Yeah. And you meet the characters in the building. You meet her people at the station, and there are other people that are in her life that are outside those realms. But it's really well written and directed.
It's a good movie. It's like Zombie has finally sort of come of age. It's no longer just childish, and it's no longer just somebody else's idea redone.
Yeah.
With like noisier.
Yeah.
Not better. Just
I can honestly say
this
that
is like a really good movie.
Yeah. This is his best movie to date. And
I say, I still wouldn't put it up there with any of Carpenter's, but it is.
I'm saying his best movie.
His best movie, and worth seeing, definitely. So Lords of Salem gets a thumbs up from both of us.
Yeah.
It's also the best thing Sheri Moon's done.
Yeah.
Now we got a little time left over in this episode, having gone through, we haven't done a retrospective where the person's only got 6 movies. Let's talk for a moment about another sequel to a movie that we reviewed not long ago, The Last Exorcism.
Yeah.
Cleverly called The Last Exorcism Part 2.
Right.
I love when they really put a thought into the title of a sequel.
Yeah.
So this was directed by Ed Gast Donnelly, who I think did the first one. Written by Gast Donnelly and Damien Chazelle. Stars Ashley Bell as Nell. She, of course, played Nell in the first movie. Julia Garner plays Gwen, who is a monstrous blonde roommate at this sort of halfway house that Nell finds herself. Spencer Treat Clark plays Chris, also sort of in the halfway house. A nice young man who shows interest in Nell, but she's still a little too screwed up. I just really quickly recount, in the first movie what happens is that this minister who is completely jaded, he doesn't believe in God anymore, he doesn't believe in any sort of mystical power of the church, but he's been making money doing exorcisms. And so he just randomly, he takes an envelope, he's having a documentary made about him, and so he's going to do his last exorcism.
Right.
And so he randomly picks an envelope and he says, okay, these people have got a problem. They think they got poltergeists. They go there. They, blah, blah, blah. A lot happens. They think, you can see the guy is a scam artist, but then it turns out that there really is something peculiar going on with this daughter, and so on and so on. By the end of the movie, pretty much everybody's dead except for Nell. So the possessed daughter is now, at the beginning of the second movie, she's in a sort of halfway house, a house for the mentally damaged, and she's trying to pick her life up again.
And she's getting all this counseling and everything, and she's getting to the point where...
Do you notice how creepy that counselor is? Like every time he come over and he'll put his foot up on the chair that she's sitting in, and his groin sort of splayed open in front of her, and he'll say, I want you to think of me as your friend. I want you to know that you can come to my room any time of the day or night and talk about your... Oh, yeah, okay. You want me to call you daddy? He's creepy. But I don't know whether he's evil or not.
He's kind of convinced her that she was imagining all the things in the first...
Well, of course. What would you think? That it really was devil worship?
Of course.
That there were mad people there, and that's what influenced her. Uh-huh. But whatever the hell it was, whether it was some kind of weird coven, may still be following her.
Right.
And I don't want to give too much away, but the people in the house... there's lots of red herrings, so you're never quite sure who's a friend and who isn't. But they play that very nicely.
She leaves the hospital, kind of the hospice, and goes into another place.
It's still sort of a halfway house.
It's a halfway house, but it's not the clinical medical kind of help. She's got an older woman that runs the house, and there's a lot of nice-looking women running around. Each have their own room and things like that. So you're, like you said, you're introduced to a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
You don't know which ones are good for her and which ones aren't.
That's right.
And some of them...
And the young man, I just want to mention Spencer Treat Clark, who plays Chris, who certainly appears as if he's trying to break through her shell and be a romantic person in her life. Because they're supposed to be just kids. She says at one point that I think she says she's 17, so they're pretty young. She was like 16 in the first movie. So they're fairly young teens. But that actor, Spencer Treat Clark, he was the kid... the nephew of the emperor in Gladiator.
Okay.
And we talked not too long ago in a recent show.
That's pretty obscure.
About Unbreakable.
Yeah.
He was Bruce Willis's son in Unbreakable.
Oh, there you go.
So, he's a really good little actor.
And growing up.
Oh, and the last thing I saw him in as a well-grown teenager was Last House on the Left.
Oh.
He's a teenage boy who gets the two girls back to the motel room to smoke some grass. Time gets away from them, and now Daddy and Uncle and the crazy aunt show up, and the torture really begins. The torture and murder begins.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I quite liked Last Exorcism, the first part. It was way better than I expected. This one, I didn't think was as effective as the first movie. I know you didn't see the first one, but how did it strike you just as a standalone movie?
As a standalone, they referred to a lot of stuff in the first movie.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah. And so I was kind of wondering. It made inferences so that you kind of knew what happened.
Well, you don't know why she's a little lost. You don't know why she's lost. Unless you've seen that first movie. Yeah,
I think it is definitely you have to see both movies in order to get a good understanding of what's happening in the second movie.
Okay. Well, I think we're going to wrap this one up, folks. As far as Rob Zombie goes, I think Mark and I would agree that Lords of Salem is...
his best movie.
His best movie. I would avoid both the Halloween movies myself.
No, I did not dislike the first Halloween movie.
Yeah, you like that?
I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Same with House of a Thousand Corpses. I thought it was,
right.
Even though it was his first movie,
Right.
I liked the black humor in it.
Yeah.
And
I would say Lords of Salem, House of a Thousand Corpses, and then Halloween.
And the rest,
And The Devil's Rejects, and Halloween 2, and for God's sakes, avoid The Haunted World of Superbeasto.
So he's half of his movies are okay.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad average, and they probably all made good money, so you can't blame them for that. And then we had time at the end, so we threw in The Last Exorcism Part 2, which I liked, but as Mark says, I think you got to make it a double bill.
Yeah.
Last Exorcism and Part 2.
Yeah. Whereas you don't have to do that with a Halloween.
No, I don't think so.
It's not a good double bill.
And if you have not seen the John Carpenter original Halloween, you would probably have a more enjoyable experience, because I couldn't help but compare.
You see, that's the thing. I couldn't remember much about the original.
Oh, I watched it not that long ago.
Because, it was sort of all new to me.
Yeah.
Because it's been like 20 years since I saw the original. So, no, I couldn't remember much.
Yeah, no, there you go.
And again, with all the different characters in there, and I thought everyone did a really good job in the first one. The second one was just meaningless.
Yeah.
Meaningless.
Yeah.
Absolutely meaningless.
We could say that about most of the movies we watch, Mark.
No, that's not true. Sharknado? That's not meaningless.
That's worse than meaningless.
Oh, I love the way the sharks ended up just about everywhere, being thrown everywhere.
At the very least, there's a lot of material for shark fin soup.
Yeah, and that stuff's expensive.
Yeah, very.
And illegal, I think.
That's right. It's just, there aren't that many sharks in the ocean. There just aren't that many.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was saying to my son, Jake, because he watched it with me, I said, that means the ocean is healthy.
Yeah.
Because we're not killing the oceans. Because
overabundance of shark life.
But why not octopus?
Yeah.
Why not, all the different...
Yeah. Mackerel swords.
Yeah. You can imagine sardines coming in and just killing you, a whole
like bullets.
School, like bullets.
Machine gun.
Like a flying fish, It's like, they could have had all sorts of things in there.
Horses, for that.
Tusker. Dolphins.
They pierce you.
But no, just sharks.
Swordfish.
Just sharks.
Swordfish would be pretty
Oh,
hideous.
that would be cool.
They could probably skewer 3-4 people and
Yeah.
nail them right to a wall.
That in itself would be worth seeing.
There's a movie.
There's a movie. But no, just sharks.
Sailfishosaurus.
I just love the fact that they did all these stupid things in that movie.
Obviously, Mark wishes he could subscribe to FX. Not me. Okay, folks, that's it. I'm out of here. Still trying to stop coughing, so send those cards and letters and
of sympathy. You want everyone to go.
I want boxes of liqueur chocolate.
That's good for the throat.
That's very good.
Oh yeah.
Eat a box of those, and the chocolate makes you feel sick, but you're so drunk you don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that you can possibly do that without throwing up.
No, you're right.
It's like eating that mint schnapps stuff, drinking that stuff.
Yeah, you can't
one sip is fine.
Yeah,
a bottle is not.
A bottle of creme de menthe is it's like eating a couple of tubes of toothpaste.
And I think everybody has that rite of passage. I remember drinking like half a bottle of that stuff and being sick to my stomach. You only do it once. It's a coming of age thing.
No, I never did that.
But every time I see it on somebody, just recently I was at somebody's house and there it was, a bottle of that mint mouthwash. Yeah, that's what it is. And I looked at it and I went, never again.
No. Luckily, I always was able to choose a more delicious liquor.
Like what?
Oh, Jesus, anything. Tequila, scotch, rum, vodka, gin. Any of the whiskeys. Bourbon, scotch.
Bourbon? I haven't really tried much bourbon.
Canadian whiskey. Delicious.
Well, a little sweet for my liking. Ouzo. That if you like licorice.
Yeah.
Why don't they sell black licorice anymore? I cannot find it.
Boy, I don't know, but I'm out of here.
It drives me nuts.
Now we know what Mark will be worrying about until our next episode, folks.
Black licorice, bring it back. Enough of this crap raspberry shit. Just my saying.
Yeah, there you go.
Just my thoughts.
Okay. All right, so until next time, it's so long from me.